Hello, it's Ms. Z here. Today we are going to switch things up a little bit. I'm posting an online lecture because I think it's important to talk a little bit about why the activities we've been doing are important and moving forward. What do we want to get from you? How do we want to move forward? So, before we get started with this whole lecture, I wanted to take a second to step back and really thank you all for the level of effort and engagement you've been providing us every single day through e-learning. I know this past week has been almost like an experiment, right? We've been working together, we've been flexible, we've been communicating online, we've been collaborating, and that's the most we can ask from you right now is giving us the feedback that you have been, asking those awesome questions, staying in the loop, checking in every day. It's awesome. And really, we're so grateful for it. And we're grateful for you all and hope you're staying healthy and safe. And yeah, so thank you. Honestly, just keep doing what you're doing. If things are working well and you like the way we're doing things, let us know. Give us feedback. If you don't, if things are confusing, ask questions and tell us. We don't like the way this activity was given. We like this better. It helps us to work together with you and make sure we are getting the most out of this experience. So, that being said, thank you again. Your level of effort and engagement, we couldn't ask for anything better. Just keep working with us, right? That's all we can ask for. E-learning. We got this. We're all rocking it. We're all rocking it. One other thing I wanted to touch base on, March Mammal Madness. If you're following through with it, let us know in the comments below. We want to hear this. How's your team doing? How are your mammals doing? Right? Still going on. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about the activities we've been doing. So this past week, we've been doing some things to talk about the relationship between structure and function, how they can work together, and in different systems. So we started talking about last Friday in class the relationship between our body systems and how they work together, why they look the way they do, and why they perform the way we do, to answer the question, why do we get so hangry? So we did a couple activities on that. And then moving forward, on Tuesday, I gave you the activity where you were supposed to look at those two pictures. Let me take a second to pull an example up. So you were given the structure and function activity where you were looking at the picture of a lung and its bronchioles and comparing it to the branches of a tree. And then you were looking at the tree of life and comparing it to a human placenta. So you all did awesome through this activity. We got a couple questions, which was great. What we wanted you to get from this, we wanted you to make a connection between why something looks the way it does and performs the way it does. Does the way it looks connect to the job that it does? Its function. So what we're going to start to talk about, and what we're starting to even look at with that eye cell activity we did the next day, is cells. Why do cells perform the way they do? How are cells that basic unit to help us perform in organisms? So I'm going to try to use this whiteboard, but I realized when writing hello that it will come up backwards. So work with me. I'm mostly going to keep this to drawings, but we want to talk about, maybe if I go like this. Let's try this. Okay, so structure and function. So some of the activities that we're going to be doing and continue to do, we are going to do a lab, a virtual lab, just talking about why cells are this basic structural and functional unit of all organisms. Structure and function. So the activity we did, we looked at the bronchioles, we looked at the tree. You came up with some awesome examples. So cells, they make up organisms. Cells also carry out all the activities we need to keep that organism alive. As cells develop, they differentiate. Now think about the word differentiate for a second. What does it mean to be different? When you differentiate something from something, you are breaking them into their own categories. So for example, of a differentiated cell, you have a muscle cell, a blood cell, a leaf cell, etc. So what we want to get is, how does a cell structure differentiate into that unique function? How does that structure of the cell differentiate into the function it performs in the muscles, in blood, in a leaf, and so on? Now, yesterday you all did the activity on iCell. So on iCell, you really looked at the difference between prokaryotic, eukaryotic cells. And you explored some of the organelles. Now, while these are important to know, what we really want you to get away from this activity was looking at the differences between these cells, so the differentiation, like we just talked about, why the cells look the way they do and how they perform in different ways. So I know I've been trying to write on this. Let's try again. So for example, we have our animal cell, our plant cell, and our bacteria cell. So we have our animal, let's just pretend it's like that. We have our plant, so animal here, plant, and we are going to do our bacteria cell with our flagella. So we have these three different types of cells. Just imagine they have all the organelles in them. Why do they look the way they do? Why are they structurally and functionally looking this way? So now, thinking about the organelles that we kind of explored through the app, one in particular I really want us to stay engaged with and pay attention to is the cell membrane. How can the cell membrane withstand the forces and serve as a barrier to outside of the cell? How can that cell membrane keep certain things in and remove certain things? So that's where we're kind of headed. We want to think about that cell membrane. We want to think about how it allows certain things in, but doesn't let some things in. How it serves as a barrier to some things and it serves as a gatekeeper to others. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how it allows us to determine how the cell size allows us to determine its function and its structure. So what size of a cell is too big or too small? How can we determine that? So the activity in the lab we're going to do is talking about that a little bit more. We're going to get more of a hands-on idea with that. How big is too big, right? So what we want to know is cell size. When cells reach a certain size, their rate of growth actually slows down. So where we're headed is thinking about what is the maximum size of a cell, that relationship, that cell size, cell growth relationship that we can get to before a cell stops growing. Because cells divide, right? So as cells grow and grow, they continue to divide. So what's that maximum size that the cell can be before it divides, before it stops growing? So we're going to think about that a little bit. So some of the takeaways we want you to get from this video. The relationship between structure and function, why the cell is that basic structural and functional unit of an organism. We want you to think about what is the right size and shape of a cell. Why do these cells differentiate to perform in different functions? So thinking about liver cells, thinking about muscle cells or blood cells, how are those cells potentially designed to perform their function in the liver or in the blood, and so on. And we want you to think about what size is big enough. How big is too big until a cell stops growing? Because cells eventually divide. But what's that maximum size? How do we figure that out? So we want you to think about these relationships. So now take a few minutes, answer the Google form that I have posted, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you soon.